Hello, sweet peaches. How are you? Let me see if I can lower this a little bit. I just got out of the shower, which is why my hair is a little bit of a wet poodle again. And today was Karen Read trial 2.0, day 24, I believe. And it is it's Friday, May 30th. 2025, and it's 6:24 p.m. right now, Eastern Standard Time, and I'm pulling my little few curls apart, and I want to talk about my thoughts about today and trial so far. And I believe that Karen Read is guilty on all 3 counts. I feel very bad about it. It gives me a sick feeling, a terrible sick feeling. It's not a joyful thing. I'm not happy about the fact that I believe that she's guilty. I'm not happy about the fact that I believe she's going to go to prison. She'll probably get sentenced to life and then get out on parole in 15. That's my prediction. So I did actually watch a little bit of Lawyer Lee yesterday, and she actually answered a question of mine, which was, hey, Lawyer Lee, do you think that Karen Read is astroturfing? Do you think that the comments are being infiltrated by basically bots, a bot farm? Astroturfing is one way of defining it. It's a social media campaign that's meant to look like organic people who are genuinely commenting, messaging, being pro, whether it's like a pro a certain brand or a movie, or in this case, a cause. Ryan Reynolds was being accused of astroturfing with Blake Lively to generate what seemed like, to me, an unhinged kind of pro Blake Lively support, and people who were just seemed like vicious, like sore. It's not a sore winner because they didn't win, but it's this whole idea of like, I'm the victim, yet I'm still gonna be vicious. And okay, so back to Karen Read and my thoughts about the astroturfing. So it has been, I've stopped watching Emily D. Baker, although I will talk about in a little bit. I did just watch a little bit of the end. Just her comments. She didn't comment or answer questions a lot because she said she had somewhere to go at the end of the day. But I was, I will say that she was being a little bit more balanced, although she did ask a question that I think is extremely inflammatory, and why I think that her chat is so Karen Read lover heavy. The question she asked was, do you put a 1 in the chat if you think that the Commonwealth showing those clips of Karen Read was taken out of context and made to look worse than it is? Like, what? How the fuck can you take that out of context and make it look like, wow? So she said that, and then she also said that, well, one thing she was being, I think was like honest, was how she was obviously flabbergasted, or befuddled, I should say, about the fact that the defense doesn't seem to want to call Trooper Proctor, which is pretty funny fuckingly weird to me, because I thought that their whole case was hinging on the fact that Trooper Proctor is the one who touched every piece of evidence. Trooper Proctor is the one who was the lead investigator. Trooper Proctor, Trooper Proctor, Trooper Proctor, Trooper Proctor, Trooper Proctor, Trooper Proctor did it. But now you don't want to call Trooper Proctor? But they want to get his texts in. His text that he said nasty shit about Karen Reed, who he believed was a murderer, a cop murderer, and he's a cop. And he said nasty, completely inappropriate shit in what he thought, ignorantly, was a private friend chat with a group of friends that he's known since he was like 6 and 7 years old. 30 years. To me, it seems like getting caught talking some really nasty shit about a client or somebody that you're supposed to be being professional about and with and to and all that, and you're not, and then you get found out. But then that person decides to take you being very unprofessional and saying nasty shit and spin it into an unhinged plotline, that because he said some nasty shit about Karen Reed in a chat group chat, therefore he must be covering up murder. It's like everything that stems from that is so unhinged. It's like, wait, so because he said nasty things in a chat, how do you leap from that to that these people murdered him? Like, what? Somebody butt dialing somebody, getting rid of their phone, having some of their basement floor redone, selling their house. None of those things are evidence of murder. It's just really not. And somebody sending several nasty texts about somebody he believes is a murderer to people who he thought it was private, but it wasn't. How does that make him what? What is he? So how did he find out that they supposedly murdered him? Why did they murder him? Who murdered him? Who's the they that did the murdering? What's the evidence of it? Oh, it's all covered up because Trooper Proctor said she had a leaky balloon knot? And he was like, no nudes yet? That makes him, like, it's just so unhinged. Oh, but what I really, really got today, what I got was peace of mind. Let me see, I'm getting a notification. My son just arrived at his grandma's, his dad and his grandma's. Their dad is now living with his mom at the moment. He kind of moved in because he needed some help, but then when he got there, she needed help because she's 80, I think she's 80. She's 80 plus. Oh man. Anyway, I have known her since 1990. So, and then she's my kid's grandma. And so now every weekend, I mean, it's kind of funny. Sidebar, personal sidebar. My kids go with their dad every weekend, and he would always go visit her anyway. So, you know, he had his place, and then they'd go and have dinner with her or whatever, and then go back to his place. So they already had a routine of seeing her almost, not every single week, but pretty much every week. And now they're just there with her. And I'm really glad because actually I think that they can all benefit from the situation. And as much as I wish he was closer to us, because it is quite far and it puts everything on me, I'm just glad about it. Anyway, so that's why it's so quiet. So, okay. So, you know, I got very annoyed watching the trial in Emily D. Baker's chat because I felt like her opinions were just inflaming the Karen Reed cult people. And I feel the same way about Peter Tragos, and I even felt that way about Lawyer Lee. But yesterday I started to watch Lawyer Lee, that's what I was saying, and I asked that question about astroturfing. And she said, I'll be honest, I don't even know what astroturfing is, but she said, the second part of my question was, do you genuinely believe that a reasonable adult could actually believe that 60 plus people are covering up a murder? Like, it's so insane. And she said, well, you know, based on the chats, yes, she thinks a lot of people believe that, sincerely, genuinely believe that. And she was also being something she said, not directly to me, but another thing she said was that she said, I noticed that my chat is very pro Karen Reed, and many of you say things like, the jury thinks such and such, the jury will do this, the jury believes this, or the jury can see right through this, or whatever. And she said, it seems like many of you in the chat have already formed an opinion. You've watched the first trial, or you have already decided what you believe, but you've got to remember that the jury is not thinking that way. You really have no idea what the jury is thinking, and to make assumptions that you know what the jury is thinking, feeling, or perceiving is a mistake, because when the verdict comes back, now I'm continuing on, when the verdict comes back, you might be fucking shocked. Like, fucking business. Shocked. What do you think Karen's gonna do? So, I have been watching the trial on Law and Crime. Thank you, shout out to them for streaming it. And they really only pop in when there's like a long break or whatever. And I really appreciate it. And I mean, some people complain about the ads, but it's like, you're annoyed that people want to make a living, like make the little pennies that they make off the ad. Like, what the fuck? You wait 3 seconds and you hit skip. It's like, how hard is that? My God. Remember when we used to have to actually sit through half an hour? Well, not half an hour, but you have to sit through 10 minutes of commercials. And they always like raise the volumes of commercials like so much. And my dad used to always just mute it. But anywho, I was feeling so annoyed by the chat. So I started like, oh, let me just block this person. Like, oh, this person's unhinged. Let me block this person. And then it started to feel almost like a video game. You're like, bing, 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 bing. The chat is so unhinged, and I genuinely, truly have a theory, which I do believe has some merit, that some of the money that Karen Reed's defense team is pouring into her defense is through astroturfing, which is a form of an artificial social media campaign that makes it look like there's a huge amount of support for a cause, and it can be a mixture between like totally fake accounts, but you can also have people, real people, who are hired, and they just generate tons of fake accounts and generate tons and tons of engagement, writing hashtag FKR, and you know, oh, Higgins did it, and oh, Bev is so corrupt, and there's no evidence. So what I started to do was, for my own sanity, I was like, you know what? I don't even think these are real people, and if they are real people, they're completely unhinged. So let me just, for my own sanity, and you know, today I was watching like pretty much on time. So instead of having the ability to go like zoom, 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 actually I did zoom, zoom, zoom a bit, but then I caught up to real time. So it's like when there's sidebars, when there's breaks or whatever, you've got to just wait if you want to watch. So the chat's going by. I was sitting at my computer and I was just like, block, block, block. And I started to have a method if anybody says free Karen Reed or FKR, block. Anybody who called the judge Bev, block. Why? Because it's fucking disrespectful. And if that's how you're speaking, you are not taking this seriously. You're biased as fuck, and I don't want to see it. Block. Anybody who was saying something about how pretty Karen is, block. I mean, there was one that was a pro Karen, pro that she's guilty, and it said, take Karen off to jail. I was like, block, because that's unhinged. She's gonna go off to jail. No, it said, take Karen to jail now. And it's like, let Karen finish her trial like she deserves. She's still innocent until she's proven guilty. I believe she's guilty. I believe the verdict will be guilty. I have said she's guilty. She's guilty. However, so it kind of sounds unhinged, because normally I like a fair and balanced look, and I want to hear both sides, and I want to hear what people who have different opinions think, and I want to know how is someone from another perspective perceiving it differently than I am. However, in this case, so what I started to discover was, as I started to kind of like methodically just like what was the word I was just about to say? Systematically just like deleting these outrageously pro Karen Reed comments, people who were like, you know, the feds are watching every sidebar and they're gonna get them all. There's absolutely no way that she did this. She's so innocent. Higgins did it. Collins did it. Trooper Proctors did it. Bev is so corrupt. I was just like, block, 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 block. And then all of a sudden, the chat got calmer. And I started to see comments from people who actually seemed to be looking at the evidence. There was constant comments about complaining about how Bev, which I just find it incredibly disrespectful. And, you know, it's like, on one hand, I want to say you're misogynistic, because everything you complain about her is like literally her job. And like, there's just so many disgusting things, but then it's like, it's kind of weird. It's like, as if they're misogynistic, why are they super pro Karen? You know, that kind of doesn't track. So it's like, I don't get it. I don't really understand it. And it's like, do I think that cops can be corrupt and have a blue wall and stuff like that? Yeah, of course. But like, what about everybody else? Why would all the other 50 some 60 people, why are they corrupt and lying? Why do they have it out for Karen Reed? What did Karen Reed do to them that they would put their lives and livelihoods and integrity on the line to put her behind bars for something like what? I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. They didn't prove it. And another thing I noticed is that a lot of these pro Karen Reed comments, they're just so unhinged, to be honest. Some of them are clinging to fantasy delusional plot lines that were spun off of things that the defense said the first time, which they haven't brought them up. Like, so back to the whole, like, they don't want to call Trooper Proctor, and Yanetti's like, they can't tell us who to call, and if they want to call him, they should call him. And it's like, wait, you just literally spent like 5 or 6 weeks naming Proctor as this terrible guy who was the lead investigator, and he was so important, and he touched every piece of evidence, and he botched it all. And like, I thought that they were gonna bring him out and like try to skewer him and just like grill him right there, throwing barbecue sauce at him and be like, and take that, and take that, and take that. And it's like, wait, now you just want to bring in like a couple of texts where he says like something, pin it on the girl. I don't know if that's what he said. Isn't the cop gonna get some shit? Nope. Like, maybe because that's the fucking truth. Michael Proctor's texts with his school friends. Someone on Reddit posted this, so I wanted to read it. So in the column, in the middle column, okay, 5151, 5051, Chip, MP, the name of that BP cop, Boston police. Proctor, John O'Keefe, how old? Proctor, he took custody of his sister's kids. 617. Oh man, that's rough. Proctor, mid-40s. Then a link to John O'Keefe's Facebook page. What's that? Don't have the book anymore. Proctor, this one is a nightmare. Think about the kids. That's awful. Bird, I'm sure the owner of the house will receive some shit. Proctor, nope. Proctor, homeowner is a Boston cop too. Bird, he must have been a puddle to accomplish that. Bird, who's the homeowner? Bird, I hope not, but I can see it. Proctor, she waffled him. I looked at his body at the hospital. She waffled him? Proctor, he was banged up. 95. Oh, I thought he was drunk. Did he get beat up? Proctor, nope. Bird, so the owner of the house was a woman cop that beat him? So right there you can see, obviously, that is false because the owner of the house was not a woman cop and he wasn't beaten. Proctor, that's what I initially thought after talking to Canton paramedics. Then I saw the guy. What does she waffled him mean? What's the story? Proctor, she hit him with her car. 5051. Oh, Jesus. Bird, okay, that's fucked up. Proctor, intentional or not? Gotcha. He was frozen in the driveway and she didn't see him? Now that also is not correct. Proctor says, that's another animal we won't be able to prove. They arrived at the house together, got into an argument. She was driving and left. Okay, so we know that he wasn't frozen in the driveway. He was 100 feet all the way over by the flagpole, close to the tree line between the two houses. Quite far from the front door, unlike what many people falsely claim. 0095. What's the name of the Canton cop living in Canton, the one involved? The Boston Police Department have any jurisdiction here because it was their own? 5051. But I assume you guys are out to make it cut and dry because it involves cops, right? So again, these are the texts that Alan Jackson and the defense team are trying to say is evidence that Proctor decided to frame her, where he obviously believes, from reading the texts, that this is a nightmare. Think about the kids. That's awful. And he believes that she beat him up. I mean, hit him. But he believes that she hit him with her car after an accident. Bird, something stinks. Proctor, yeah, but there will be some serious charges brought on the girl. Okay, so it wasn't pinned on the girl. It was, there will be some serious charges because he believes that she hit him with a car. 5150. I can only imagine what internal affairs at the Boston Police Department are trying to get out there. And then 5051 says, she's hot at least. Proctor, from all accounts, he didn't do anything wrong. She's a whack job cunt. Proctor, yeah, she's a babe. With a weird Fall River accent, though. No ass. Bird, not newsworthy then. 5150. 5051. Oh, she's skating. Proctor, zero chance she skates. She's fucked. So the friend thinks that she's going to get off. Another friend, or the same one who asked if she was hot, thinks she's going to get off. And the friend Bird says it's not newsworthy, maybe because she has no ass, I don't know, or was it because of her weird Fall River accent? Michael Proctor's text to Courtney Proctor, this is his sister. Okay, wait, so I'm going to go back. So wait, this was from January 29th. It was literally the day it happened, the night it happened. The night of the, like, it happened in around 12:30, and this is that same day, but in the night at 10:52 p.m., 16 hours into the investigation. Okay, and then in February 10th, 2022, his sister Courtney says, "How did it go at Julie's? She was so nervous." Proctor says, "Ha, ha, ha, ha. It was fine, just a quick convo." Julie Nagel, probably. And then going back to January 29th, a couple of, like right within the time while he was texting, he texts to his friends, "All the powers that be want answers ASAP." Okay. Then going to February 1st, 2022, 3 days into it, Proctor, I guess, shares a photo of Karen being escorted from the State Police Milton Barracks. Then 4146 says, "Is that chick a smoke? Question mark. Proctor says, nutbag, as Chief would say. She's got a leaky balloon knot. It leaks poo." Okay, here's the same thing again. And there's that again. And then Michael Proctor texts David DeCisco on June 9th of 2022 at 11:19. We don't know if it's AM or PM. "If you like women who shit themselves." Then he texts to Elizabeth. Hold on. So it's the same day, later in the day, to someone else. Michael Proctor texts, "We're going to lock this whack job up." Then in September 17th of 2022, Michael Proctor is in a police group chat with John Fanning, Yuri Buchanek, Sergeant Yuri Buchanek, Chris Moore, David DeCisco, Jeff Krakowski, spelling, DD, text and image of DY, don't know what that is, and then, David Yannetti. And then at 9:44 p.m., Proctor texts, "Funny, I'm going through his R word," said full out, "client's phone. No nudes so far. I hate that man. I truly hate him." Again, if you believe that this woman killed a cop, hitting him with her SUV on the lawn, and if you listen to Karen's docuseries clips where she said that same night she had told Yannetti, "Could I have clipped him?" and he said, "You would be culpable." And then the story became, no, the cops beat him up. Wouldn't you maybe fucking hate that man too? If you were a cop who knew she was guilty? Okay, then whoever posted this didn't care about fucking chronological order, so I'm just going with whatever they shared, okay? And this is the last one. Michael Proctor's text to David DeCisco on April 28th of 2022 at 10:52 a.m. Proctor says, "Without a doubt, he's got diarrhea of the mouth too."
DD, David DeSisco, rookie move not meeting with the medical examiner and getting that homicide determination. Proctor says, Yuri and I had 2 conference calls with her, had numerous photos, etc. We laid out the entire case for her. DeSisco, should have had me or Jeff do it. Proctor, if you 2 did it, she would have made accidental or natural causes. Of course, it's undetermined. She was a whack job. DeSisco, dear God, what the fuck? What the hell is inconclusive about the whole thing? So, the defense tried to say that Proctor was trying to...
So I understand why the defense wants to get those text messages in. They want to show that they believe that Trooper Proctor actually had decided that she murdered him, and that he obviously said a lot of very nasty things about her, which is why he was fired. He was fired in part because of the nasty text messages that he said about, that he sent to people. And first of all, he was chatting with people about an open murder investigation that he had no business talking to about this confidential stuff. So there was that. And the fact that he said all those nasty things about her. And he also got fired because he had driven his trooper vehicle, what do you call it? His state vehicle, while he was drunk. So he got fired because of those reasons. He did not get fired for framing her. He didn't get fired for planting evidence. He didn't get fired for breaking her taillight and sprinkling it Salt Bay on the lawn. Okay? He didn't get fired because he covered up a murder that cops had committed and framed it on an innocent woman, which is what the defense is trying to push. Their whole story is that Trooper Proctor had it against her, and he was covering up for his cop friends who murdered John O'Keefe, a cop, in their own house, and then dropped him on the lawn right where Karen left him to frame her for the murder that they committed. That was their... Well, I guess they were kind of going with that the first trial. They haven't really, they've only had the one witness so far, so they haven't really developed their story yet. But the fact that they were pushing back on calling Proctor at all, but they want to get the text messages in, I just don't see, they want to call one of the friends and try to get the friend to read the text messages in. So that was one of the guys they had called yesterday on voir dire to see, hey, can we get this guy in? And he I think he had only texted one text in the chain that was within the time frame, and he said he didn't remember it or whatever. So I don't see how they can avoid calling Trooper Proctor in if they want to get all his text messages in. Like Emily D. Baker, that was one of the few things that she seemed to be it does seem that there was a few things that she was like, that's curious. Like this, the fact that, wait, they don't want to call Trooper Proctor, but he's supposedly their whole case? That's suspicious. So what she was saying was, he's a witness that's available. It's not as if he's unavailable for whatever weird reason. Like John O'Keefe, for example, is unavailable to testify because he's dead. Okay, but even people who are in prison can be made available to testify in a case. So unless someone is dead or incapacitated or, far-flung, they're in a prison in some non-extradition country, somehow unavailable, where, you've got to go, how did they get Sergeant Yuri Buchanan to read text messages between Karen Reed and John O'Keefe? Well, Karen Reed didn't want to be called to the stand to read them, and John O'Keefe is dead.
So that's how they got somebody else to read them. And oh, I'm sorry. Yes, there was that. And then there was also text messages Brian Higgins and Karen Reed had, but Yuri Buchanan read. And technically Brian Higgins is available, so I'm not sure why they let it in that way. I don't know what the ruling was on how they decided to let Yuri Buchanan. I mean, I guess they were like, well, we're not calling Brian Higgins and you're not calling Brian Higgins. I did screenshot their witness list.
catlovedreamingpeach.com.
This is a combined witness list. I can scroll through it. You can pause it if you want to stop and read. So combined meaning defense and prosecution. There's somebody outside with their loud ass car. Okay. And then you can read the footnote. Okay, witness list. I don't know why they're being so rude. Okay, and then this is Commonwealth of Massachusetts versus Karen Reed, defendant. Karen Reed's list of prospective witnesses. When is the date on here? I don't know. Okay, oh. March. Okay. So this is the prospective list. Brian Higgins is definitely right there. 28. So they could have called him to read the texts. I don't know why they didn't. Okay, so if you want to go back and look at this, you can see who's up all on the list. And some of these people may end up getting called on the rebuttal. All right, well, that was very, very small, so I'm going to redo it so you can see it and read the names. Redo this because it was way too small. So this is Karen Reed's list. Potential witnesses: Brian Albert, Caitlin Albert, Christopher Albert, Colin Albert, Julie Albert, Kevin Albert, Nicole Albert, Michael Wagner, Cheryl Wag, Paul Makowski, Daniel Whitley, Daniel Wolf, Derek Ellington, Dr. Marie Russell, the so-called dog bite expert, Elizabeth Laposata, Elizabeth Proctor, Eric Hanlon, Erin Beatty, Erin O'Keefe, Francis Walsh, Garrett Wing, Gary Fowler, Gregory Woodbury, Gretchen Voss, Hannah Knowles, Heather Maxim, that was Ryan Nagel's ex-girlfriend, she testified, Heriberto Hernandez, Holly Price, Ian Whiffen, he testified, Irini Scortibello, doctor, the medical examiner, Dr. Irini Scortibello, James Crosby, Jason Becker, Jean DeMullis, Jennifer McCabe, Jessica Hyde. Jessica Hyde testified. She was the I don't know if it was Celebrite or the other company. She's the one who testified that the 227 was not the time of the Google search. John O'Keefe Sr., Judson Welcher, Julie Albert, Julie Nagel. Oh, maybe it was the Julie Albert that was in the text messages. Justin Rice, Juvenile KF, that's Kaylee, the niece. Juvenile PF, that's Patrick, the nephew. Caitlin Boudreau, Karina Kolokitas, Katie Camerano, Katie McLaughlin, keeper of records for Ring. Kerry Curran, Kerry Roberts, Kevin Albert, Kevin O'Hara, Lance Mello, Laura Sullivan, Lori Cahill, Leslie Pearlstein, Lieutenant Michael Lank, Louis Jutras, Lieutenant Brian Tully, Lieutenant John Fanning, Lieutenant Paul Gallagher, Maggie Gaffney, Mark LaPillato, Margaret O'Keefe, Marietta Sullivan, Mary Souza, Matthew Omari, Matthew DeSogra, he testified yesterday, Matthew Erickson, Matthew Kelly, Matthew Kelch, Matt McCabe, Maureen Hartnett, Megan Mariani. I don't think I'm going to actually read all of these names, but I did want to just show them in a way where you could actually read them. Nicole Albert. I didn't want them to be so darn tiny where you couldn't see them at all. Paul O'Keefe, Ryan Nagel, Yuri Buchanek. All right, let's see. I just want to finish up so you can actually see the names. Shannon Burgess. So we can see some of them have already testified. Trooper Connor Keefe. I think he testified as well. So there's Dave. I was saying Dave DeCisco, but it might be Dave DeCicco. He was in the text messages. A bunch of troopers. There's Michael Trooper Proctor. Please note that the defense has not included the following names, which were included on the Commonwealth's prospective witness list. 1. Alan Jackson, Esquire. 2. David Yannetti, Esquire. And 3. Elizabeth Little, Esquire. Defendant objects to the inclusion of Miss Reed's attorneys on the... And then this goes back to the Commonwealth list. Actually, I did... Oh. I wanted to read this. Attorney Elizabeth S. Little, I do hereby certify that I served defendant Karen Reed's list of prospective witnesses upon the Commonwealth by emailing a copy on March 18th, 2025 to Norfolk County Specialist Assistant District Attorney Hank Brennan at Hank, and that's his email. And then we had Elizabeth Little, David Yannetti, Robert Alessi, and Alan Jackson. Respectfully submitted for the defendant Cameron Reed by her attorneys. Oh, and then was this the last page I missed? Daniel Wolf, Andrew Rentschler, those are the ARCA witnesses, 82 and 83. Matt DeSogra. All right, I think I got them all. Did I miss this? Maybe because that's the fucking truth. Like, just like with the Jen McCabe or Matt McCabe, like, tell them the guy never came in the house. Exactly. And they're like, look at that. Like, well, if you take it on face value, if you take it for what it says, for what it's worth, for what it means, if you were to read that and say, what does it mean? It means Matt is saying, tell him the guy never came in the house. And the other guy says, exactly. So I would get from that, well, he's saying, tell him the guy never came in the house. Exactly. But Cameron Reed lovers read it and they say, aha! He's saying, tell him the guy never went in the house because he did go in the house
and we have to lie and say he didn't go in the house, and of course the other guy will know exactly that he means the exact opposite of what he's saying. Aha, exactly. Like, is this a Pink Panther, Tom and Jerry kind of cartoon? Like, what? Like, the comments are so unhinged. So there was one person saying, Karen is too smart. Why would she hit him right in front of a cop's house? She wouldn't do that. And it's like, oh, okay. She's so smart that she wouldn't hit a cop in front of a cop's house, but the cops are not so smart that they wouldn't kill the cop inside their own house and then dump him on their own lawn. Okay, that makes sense. Oh my God, what are the other things that they were saying? Like, oh, well, the whole point, my big foot going by, the whole point of the defense's witness, Matt Disogra. Oh my God, it was like so embarrassing. I personally felt very embarrassed for him because he got up there and he was like, well, this was this was Burgess's report and this was Welcher's report and blah, 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 blah. I added 3 seconds here and 3 seconds here and blah, 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 3 seconds. He said, I took his report, I took his numbers. He did the math, that was good, but then I did another column with some other calculations. And boppity boop boop, there was 3 seconds here and 3 seconds there. And then I was able to calculate 30 different calculations. And some of them had the John's cell phone, the last like turn off event, which the defense is insisting was a human event, although you literally have no way to prove that, because if the phone drops or it just goes off, like the button could go off, it could be pressed in your pocket, it could be landing on the ground. There's like a lot of ways that a button could get pressed that you don't necessarily have to go like this to it. So they can't actually prove that, just like Welcher was able to say that the Lexus definitely hit someone about the same size and shape and weight of John O'Keefe, and that John O'Keefe was definitely hit by something about the same size and shape of the Lexus, but he couldn't say that Lexus definitely hit him because he doesn't know that for sure. So just like they could definitely say the last shut-off button was depressed at this time. They don't know if it was John. They don't know if it was Karen. They don't know if it was John's pocket. They don't know if it was the ground. They don't know anything about how it got depressed. So the whole point of Matt Disogra was to try to say, essentially, there was about 3 to 6 seconds differential where John might have actually been the one to press the button, which is what they were trying to say, that because Welcher and Burgess were saying, now that we've synced up the clock of her Lexus and the clock of John's phone together because of the drift of the variance of time between the two devices, and they matched it up, Welcher said that every calculation showed that the last actual like shut off on John's phone came after the 3-point turn. And this witness was trying to say that there was a 3 to 6 second variable that if you use that and then you calculate it a few times, you could, some of it still shows it happened, before, but you could calculate it a couple of ways to show that it was after. But even with that, how do you get him into the house? Nobody saw him in the house. There wasn't a single witness that saw him in the house. His cell phone data showed that it never went into the house. Even if you took the most generous pings of where his phone might have gone and said, you know what, there were some pings that could have maybe been in that house, but the temperature never got warm enough to have actually gone inside the house. What does my face look like? I need some lotion. I just closed my curtains a little because I noticed that my new neighbor, who's always out there, is out there again. Always out there under my fucking window with his new grass that he grew for 3 weeks, and now he had to start all over, but he said he needed to level it. So anyway, what was I saying? Now I lost my train of thought. I gotta find it back again. That's right. I was talking about today's witness, Dee Sogra, who was essentially trying to say, well, I did some calculations off of their data. I didn't do any of my own. I didn't reconstruct anything. I didn't test a vehicle. He literally said that, well, Welcher, yeah, he did a second vehicle and he tested it and he found that, you know, there was this 3-second delay, but he should have tested a second vehicle. So I'm like, wait, he thought he should have bought a whole a third Lexus he should have bought now? Maybe he should have just bought a whole fleet of 10 of them, you know, how about that? But then that guy didn't do testing on one Lexus. He didn't do testing on none Lexuses. He didn't do any fucking testing. He took 2 people's reports, was like, thanks, you did the math for me. Let me fucking just critique it. And like, I'm going to say, oh, you made a little mistake. I did a big old presentation I was working on. I didn't create most of the content. There was, let's see, it ended up being like 790 pages between these 4 different presentations. I only made like a handful of like title slides or whatever, but I did a shitload of reformatting on those slides and working with the masters and all kinds of stuff. And so after all of it, I created an index and I came up with indexing the numbering system, and then I did the numbering for all 4 of these decks. And then this other person decided she was adding a bunch of slides to the various presentations, which she needed to do. And then she said, I'm going to update the index. And I said, would it be easier for me to do that since I was the one who fucking created them? And she was like, no, I know which slides I added, so it'll be easier for me to do that. So I was like, okay, fine. And then she decided that she didn't like just one like minor detail where I had put the number of how many slides were in each section on a certain part of a column. So each section had like how many slides was in that section. And she decided that she didn't like that and didn't make sense to her. So like she was like, well, I couldn't figure out why you did that, so I changed it, and the way she changed it didn't make sense to me. Like when I first looked at it, I was like, oh wait, she fucked it up, and now there's like these typos. There's all these fucking typos that she made. So I wrote back to her and I was like, I just was looking at the updates you made and I noticed that there's several typos. And then she wrote back and she said, well, the way that you did it, which is where I had said like 7 slides for section 2, 8 slides for section 3, 50 slides for section 4, 40 slides, she decided that it made more sense to her to put, instead of putting how many slides there was in each section, she decided, so let's say section 10 starts out on page 100 and ends on page 110, she decided instead of putting 10 slides, she put 110. So it's like in the bar where it says slide number 100 and all the other numbers, I had 10 slides for section 10. She decided it made more sense to just put slide 110, which is where the section ends. And then in the next section, instead of saying, 8 slides and have it be 118, whatever, she fucking did it. And I was like, her way makes no sense. It looks weird. It's hard to follow and it doesn't make sense and it's not informative. The way I did it, I thought, is simple. It's easy. And why did it matter? Because each slide had its own number. So if you know that there's 10 slides in the section, and then you'll know, okay, this section goes from 100 to 120, or 100 to 110, and I have to know all that. And I know that section 10 has 10 slides, and I know that. But the way she did it made it all fucking stupid and weird and looked like a typo. But then when I said, I think your way is also confusing, the boss decided, hey, let's jump on a call. But at the time when she said, let's jump on a call, I wasn't able to jump on the call because I was driving to get my kid. So she jumped on the call with the boss and told her whatever she wanted to say. I have no idea what it was because I wasn't there. And she convinced the boss that her way was better. And she wrote back and said, we're going to leave it like this. And I said, fine. I don't give two shits. You know, it's just one thing I don't have to do now. So my whole point about that sidebar story is that I did a very complex spreadsheet, I guess you could call it. It was a table, really, an indexing table. And it made perfect sense to me. And she did not know what I was thinking, and it didn't make sense to her, even though to me it was perfectly obvious. It was right there. And she decided to change it in a way that she thought made sense, that I thought didn't make any sense. And so my whole point is that their witness basically took their report and went through it, didn't make any of his own data, didn't come up with his own numbers, didn't even do his own math. He just said, oh, look at this column and this column. You should have done this. You should have added 3 seconds or minus 6 seconds or whatever he did. And said, you know, well, John's phone could have been pressed after if you added the 6 seconds here. And then Brennan talked about how this guy doesn't, even though he has a lot of experience and knowledge, he doesn't know about cell phone stuff, and he's not a cell phone guy, and he doesn't know about the data, and he doesn't know about the variance of the two different kinds of devices, and the fact that, in fact, he didn't do any of his own tests. He didn't generate any of his own data or numbers. He literally just looked at their report and said, I think I could do it a little better, and just fudged a little different couple numbers without even having access to all of it. And he basically said, yeah. And then there was a part where Brennan was pushing about how if you use the report with the wrong numbers, your information is going to be wrong. And there were people in the chat trying to say, or saying, all he's doing is disproving Burgess's report and saying it was bad. But that's not what he was doing. What he was doing was saying, I think the other thing that Disogra was doing was taking Burgess's report before he had made the edits for the additional information that he found that the defense witness or person who was getting data originally had overlooked. And so when he had found additional information, he added it to his report to make it more thorough. And so Brennan was saying, if you got his incomplete data from the first report and you didn't add the extra data and do the calculations, wouldn't your information be wrong? And he ultimately agreed, yes, it would be wrong. If the data I got originally was wrong, then my data would be wrong. And the chat, the pro-loving Karen chat, was like, all he's doing is discrediting his own expert. And that's not what he was doing. What he was doing is saying, if you take his half-baked cake before he fucking finished and put all his extra information and you use that, then your shit isn't going to be right. That's what he was saying. But what I've noticed about these pro-lover Karen people is, since I was going through and I was like, delete, block, 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 I started to notice there was a lot of repetition. It was like there were certain themes. It was the Bev is corrupt theme. It was the Brian Higgins did it theme. It was the Proctor did it theme. Or just the, Karen is innocent, free Karen Reed, Karen is innocent. There's no evidence. And then there was also some of the, like, what were a few of the things? I didn't see anybody talking about the 2:27 a.m. How's Long to Die in Cold. That was a big thing that was going on, but I think that they kind of recognized it's been thoroughly debunked and proven by 2 different cell phone data companies that was not when she Googled that. That was when she had originally opened the tab on her cell phone where she was at the 2:27. She had 2 tabs open, one where she was looking at the video from the Weather Girls, It's Raining Men, hallelujah, because her sister would sing that song when she was kind of drunk, and she had just got home from being kind of drunk with her sister. And then she was looking up the basketball, probably trying to find out if the shit was about to be canceled because it was a game, but it was also a blizzard. So she was probably trying to check on seeing, did they cancel this shit yet? Not Googling some insane, bizarre conspiracy theory with not one shred of evidence and nothing but bots or people who might as well be bots regurgitating sound bites that even the own defense has not said. Now, I know that they've only had their one witness so far, and the very bizarre development of them pushing back real hard about not wanting to call Proctor and saying if the Commonwealth wants to call him, let them call him. Like, no, bitch, you're the one who wanted to call. You're the one who was saying that he was corrupt the whole time. And you're the one who kept saying he was the lead investigator. Even though there have been multiple witnesses from multiple areas who have proven beyond any shadow of any doubt that there are so many people who work on a murder trial, a case like this. There are so many moving parts. There are so many people. There are so many departments and variables and all of these experts and personnel and people and all this stuff. It's like, it doesn't even make sense to try to put it all on one person who his horror offense was that he thought that she was a murderer, and he said some nasty text messages. Which he got fired for. And, okay, so we'll see. We'll see. Karen said that their case is going to be 1.5 to 2 weeks. Is somebody calling me? I don't know who would be calling me at this time of night. You can leave a message if it's important. I'll call you back. I don't know your number. If your name not in my thing, I don't remember. I didn't order anything to be delivered. I do need to get some food for dinner. I was thinking, should I order some Chinese? I like to get vegan my fun. It's kind of like lo mein, but the lo mein has like egg in the noodles, and I don't do that. So I like this my fun. Chinese veggies with the bok choy, baby bok choy, the broccoli, and what else do I get? Tofu, fried tofu. Anyway, or I get vegan pizza. I get like this vegan Sicilian pizza with crushed red pepper added, and a vegan dessert, like a vegan tiramisu, and sometimes I get like a salad with some vegan blue cheese dressing. That sounds good. And then there's enough left over so when my kids come home tomorrow or even Sunday, we can have a little bit of it left. Anyway, I'm getting hungry. That's what I'm thinking about. But just to wrap it up, I do genuinely believe that she will be found guilty. I think they're going to make it abundantly clear that they don't need to prove that she intended to kill him. They don't need to prove that she hit him on purpose. They don't need to prove that she saw him there, she aimed at him, and she was like, boom! I'm gonna get you, sucker! All they need to prove is that she was impaired, that she got behind the wheel, and that she acted recklessly, and that reckless behavior caused a man's untimely death. And that if she had been paying attention, if she had been drunk, if she had been driving safely, if she hadn't backed up in that way that her car proved, her car's data proved it. You cannot refute that. You can say, well, he wasn't there and she didn't hit him, but his body showed the signs. And, you know, like Carl Steinbeck trying to say that Dr. Welcher made a 5th grade level presentation. Why, Carl? Just because you don't like the results? Now, I'm a little extra spicy and pissed at Carl Steinbeck because, I mean, he got my fucking hopes up about Wendy Adelson getting arrested, and I thought that he was had a lot of integrity when it came to that case, and that he had a lot of great points. However, long before I got annoyed at how grossly biased he ended up being, and just like outright outraged about this so-called bias of Judge Cannoni, which I just do not believe, I had stopped watching him because of the fact that he would always talk about how he was so confident that Wendy was going to get arrested. And I had made a deadline for myself because I was very into the case and I was watching it and I was following it. But then I just started to get extremely disheartened. And, you know, with trials, it can take years. I mean, I kind of fell back and completely away, about 95% away from following Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively. 1, because I got completely burned out. 2, because it's just like nonstop bullshit. 3, because I have to fucking do work where I get actually paid. 4, because this trial started and and it's happening and it's now, and it's a lot more interesting than a bunch of back and forth motions that, you know, are going to maybe go to trial in March of next year and may end up settling. I was very, very gung-ho about it, but now I'm kind of like, this is exhausting. And the shenanigans just don't stop. Like, the depths of the bottom, the depths of the lack of the bottom. It's like this narcissist guy that I once suffered through. And he said to me one time, which I should have taken as a signal to run the fuck away. He said, my pain, it's like this big abyss. It's like I'm standing on the edge of an abyss of an infinite darkness of pain that I don't understand. And there's no bottom. It just goes on forever. That's a charmer. And I feel that that's kind of how malignant narcissists are, as far as like, how low will you go? How many people will you drag down? How many people will you fucking shove under the bus in your desperate attempt to blame what you did on anybody and everybody else? And the answer is, there is no low enough. Including shaking a 15-year-old girl awake at 4 o'clock in the morning, screaming that John is dead, or he might be dead, or he's missing, he's out there cheating, and then calling him relentlessly and screaming that he's a fucking pervert, and you're using me, John, I'm right next to your fucking kid. And that was the day after that, I believe, was the last time that Karen like ever saw them. Obviously, she's seen them in court and everything now. I gotta fucking park my car. I should have. I thought I might have to go get my kids after school because their dad has gotten a new job, thank God. But he's like not quite sure of his schedule yet, so he wasn't sure if he was gonna get out. Well, he works from home on the Friday, but anyway, I gotta go do that. I gotta figure out what I want for dinner. Vegan pizza and salad or vegan Chinese. My younger son doesn't really like Chinese food. And it's like not that great the next day, where the pizza is great. It lasts really well, and then I put it in Ziploc bags and save it nice. So I like wrap it in parchment paper and put it in a Ziploc bag so we can easily heat it up if we want to, and it stays good for like 3 or 4 days actually. I'm probably gonna do that because then my kids enjoy it a lot too. Anyway, I'm adding a lot, but it's Friday. It's Friday. Friday chat, and that's that. So, I mean, at this point, maybe I am too biased because I feel that there's no evidence, no witness, no testimony that the defense could possibly bring that could take away the fact of all the evidence that they've shown. And the desperate bots or bot wannabes, you know, they'll cry in the comments when she gets found guilty. And then they'll move on to the next thing. And it will change literally nothing in their life. They can write to her in prison if they want to, if you're that much of a Karen Reed lover. And, you know, maybe she'll marry one of you in prison. People get married in prison, and sometimes for good, you know. The Menendez brothers, I believe, are doing their best to have some semblance of a life. Hopefully they'll get out, because I do believe that they deserve it. They've been in there for 35 years. If Karen does 15 years in prison, let's see, 15 years, it'll be 25, 35, 40. It'll be 40. Hey Siri, how old is Karen Reed?
Karen Reed is 65 years old.
Hey Siri, how old is Karen Reed from Canton, Massachusetts?
I found some web results. I can show them if you ask again from your iPhone.
Siri is fucking useless. I think she's like 45 or 46. So she's gonna be like 60 years old when she's eligible for parole. Now, hey, I could be wrong. You know, there could be 1 or 2 or 4 or 5 people up in the jury who, for some reason, are not convinced. I don't know what the other defense witnesses will say. And just like, you know, that was another type of comment that I was just like, delete, was comments that looked like some kind of ghost, but I think it was not a ghost. Oh, there was one day where I was filming and there was like, it looked like 2 orbs went by, but then I ended up putting a filter that was like all orbs, so you didn't see it, but I lost my train of thought. Please hold. Well, I don't remember what I was saying, but I do know that Brennan cut out. He didn't bring Colin Albert. He didn't bring Matt McCabe. He didn't bring Brian Albert. He didn't bring Nicole Albert. He didn't bring... did he bring Julie Nagel? He did... He didn't bring out the one who said she saw a blob, or did he? I don't remember that. Or maybe she did see the blob. I don't remember. I don't remember if they talked about that in this trial. Brian Higgins didn't come out. Trooper Proctor didn't come out. And it really seemed like the defense doesn't want to call him and doesn't want to call Trooper Paul. Maybe they will. Maybe they'll say, you know what, fuck it, we have no choice at this point. I'll finish this off by saying again, I'm not in any way encouraging something illegal, because obviously that would be illegal. And I don't want it to happen, because I do believe that she should, unfortunately, go to prison and pay for the consequences of killing her boyfriend and blaming everybody else, and going through, like, the amount of money and time and energy and the amount of suffering, pain and suffering that she has made innocent people endure, on top of the fact that they have to endure the fucking pain and suffering of the fact that he's dead is in and itself a tragedy, that they have to suffer the pain and suffering of that. And then when you pile on top of that all of the stuff that she's put them through and accused them of, and the years of pain and suffering and accusations, and her walking around free in these fancy suits with those hair extensions, and just like fucking blaming them and calling them liars and accusing them of doing what she did, it's despicable. And I find it to be just like, it makes me so mad. But then I see her face and I'm just like she's a human, and I have actual compassion, even for, like, I felt a lot of compassion for Alec Murdaugh, and I was like, seeing his sad face just like it makes me feel bad, even though I know he literally did, like, actual, like, what he did was so horrific, and he was such a bad person forever, like, for decades, like, oh my god, like, hurting victims of tragedies that he was supposed to be helping. Like, he was so evil, and I felt bad for that motherfucker. I felt bad for Trump. I look at that stupid, smelly sack of shit who's evil, and I'm like, I feel bad. Like, I feel bad that you're so terrible. Like, that's how I feel about Karen Reed. It's like, you're such a bad person. And it's so awful, because why did you have to be like that? Like, you didn't even want fucking kids. I mean, John was a good looking man, I'll give you that. He was just my type. Well, I would never go out with a cop, so strike that. But, like, physically, tall and handsome, nice face, you know, not too scrawny, not too huge, just like not too hot, not too cold. Well, he was too cold. I wonder why they never, like, actually said he was dead. He was dead on the lawn. There was no saving John. He had been dead. But I think they made it clear, you know, he died from blunt force injuries to the head and hyperthermia. I don't believe that she's gonna walk. I don't believe it's gonna be a mistrial. I don't believe it's gonna be a hung jury. I don't believe she's gonna be found not guilty on any counts. I just don't. I think that if they do believe, if they actually have gotten to the point where they're like, while his body may not have injuries of broken bones and stuff, that does not exclude him from having gotten struck in a side swipe, exactly like she said. Could I have struck his knee? His knee was struck. Could I have run over his foot? His shoe was missing. Could I have incapacitated him some kind of way where he fell down and never got back up again? That's exactly what happened. And I don't remember anybody talking about that he had thrown up or they found throw up. I don't know anybody saying that, but she did say something about, could he have been trying to take care of himself and he threw up or something? So, but what I wonder, like, what they didn't show was, like, that she went, this was one thing that the defense didn't show, which actually let me reflect, had said in your comment, By the way, let me reflect. If you still happen to be listening to me, I just want you to know that that very long comment that I wrote back and said some of this is speculation, which you then got mad about, it seemed I'm speculating. You were like, that's speculation. And then I have never seen or heard back from her again. But I took your comment and I pasted it in ChatGPT, and I was like, what if this has been proven in evidence? What if this has been, testified to? What is this, like, what parts of these comments is factual? What might be speculation? And I dissected it, and I really looked through everything you said, because well, first of all, you joined me as a member, which I really appreciated, although I think you might have canceled. I don't know. But so I was taking you seriously and really going through everything that you had said. And some of those things that you said, in my opinion, was your opinion. Things that you felt about Karen, speculations you made about her, and some of it was kind of like script writing. You were like filling in the blanks, writing a story, and that's fine. I've been doing that too. But I'm saying, this is my opinion. I am speculating. I think if I would really truly say, what do I really think happened? I think that she truly liked John and she wanted to be with John, but it was annoying the fuck out of her that he put the kids first and they came first. And kids are demanding, as they should be, and they have a lot of needs. And it's all the time with kids. And if you're a good parent, and I do believe that he was, and he had these close relationships with Jen McCabe and Kerry Roberts and probably some other people, the cops, and the friends that he had, like Jen and Kerry, had children who were friends with the children. So he had these deep ties and these close-knit relationships that he had with these other people that Karen was very jealous of. It was clear from her text messages to Brian Higgins and some of the comments that has been testified to, and her own statements in the videos make it clear that a lot of things was happening that she, for some reason, spoke about in interviews, but is now twisting it and trying to blame others. I just find it to be so despicable and cruel. It's so evil. You killed a man who didn't deserve it in any way whatsoever because you were unhinged and you couldn't take the fact that he was breaking up with you, even though you were literally trying to cheat on him behind his back. Like, why not just leave this man? Leave him be. He's a good man. He's busy taking care of these kids. He'll find somebody else who would probably have been more than happy to be the mother to these children and John's wife. And you could have gone off and been with Brian Higgins, who knows? Maybe you would have been happy drinking at the bar and not having kids and doing whatever the fuck all you were doing. But no, you had to fucking ruin it. And I still believe, because justice is not always just, and because rich white women often get, a way more leeway than other people do. And I believe that if she had herself leaned into exactly what she was saying in that last clip before the state rested and said, I told Yannetti on January 29th, 2022, could I have hit him? Could I have run over his foot? Could I have clipped him in the knee? And the answer was, yeah, if you did that, then there's some culpability. And then what sprung out of that reality was not, let me beg and plead and do everything I can to try to get house arrest. Fuck it, get 10 years house arrest. That's still better than 30 years behind bars with the possibility of parole after 15, right? But no. Instead, it became a twisted, sick, blame everybody else and the fucking mom too. Oh, but so what came out of me, block, blackity, black a bitch, blackity, black a bitch. Oh my God. And then after I did that for a few minutes, I was just like, every unhinged comment, I'm just going to block. First of all, I started to notice a pattern that while there were, maybe half of them, or I would say maybe a fourth of them had like real name sounding names, 75%, at least 50% of those people had completely fake sounding usernames. A bunch of letters, or like Susan, or JN, VC120. It's like, oh, maybe these really are bot accounts, because these names are fake ass sounding names. And after I spent just a few minutes, maybe I sat there for 10 minutes during I just sat there going like, delete, block, and you just see message retract. And then all of a sudden the chat started to make sense. And I was like, oh, there's a few people here. There's a few actual people here who are trying to watch this, and who you could see some of them responding to the Unhinged chat. But it was like, oh, there are some real people here that are getting it, that are seeing the evidence. And doing that actually made me believe, I think this is astroturfing. And in fact, there was a good handful of people, names, that I blocked, and then I was seeing them again, and I'm like, oh, there's more than one. And some of them were like the real names, and I'm like, oh, Molly McClure, you got 3 accounts, Molly McClure, and they're all free Karen Reed. There's no evidence. Like, that's astroturfing. So if you want some sanity, it was just like, oh my God, I just sat there clicking block on some very obviously, completely unhinged Karen Reed people. And all of a sudden it was like, the chat got calm. The comments seemed normal. And I didn't delete every single question. There was some people who would ask things that I was just like, fuck it, I'm deleting this bitch. Because if you're so stupid that you don't even understand like basic court rules, I'm trying to see things from an elevated, educated place. So I don't want to see bots, and I don't want to see like, 7th graders asking questions like, why can't the jury hear this? Shouldn't they be hearing this? This is so important. And it's like, if you don't understand why there's certain things that happen, Google is your friend. There's also other browsers. You don't have to limit it to Google. There's a bunch of other browsers. There are browsers where you can search and find information about. Like, one of the things that I saw repeatedly yesterday was people saying, oh my God, why does Judge Canoni, oh no, they didn't say Judge Canoni. Why does Bev say, can we move it along? How much longer? Or, and then I looked it up. And why does she do that? Because that's her fucking job. I don't want to do the work today. 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 Oh. She's so lazy. She keeps having sidebars. What is she doing? Taking smoke breaks and drinks? No, you dumb fuck. Excuse me. I'm trying to stop being so fucking verbally abusive. No, you stupid fucking fuck. She's working. And then people are like, half day and she's tired. It's like, you realize that she's still working, right? Like somebody yesterday was like, oh my God, she just sends them home and then like, why can't you just stay and work longer? It's like, do you actually know what's on her docket? Do you actually know what she's doing? Do you know that she's working at night? Do you know that she's working on the weekend? Do you know that there's other people in the universe that are not Karen Reed that also need her? No, you don't know that. Do you know that jurors, like I saw one comment was like, oh my God, these jurors have a life. Why do they keep doing half days? It's like, maybe because the jurors have a life. Like, you literally said the answer in your question. Like again, like yesterday when they got a half day, and then people are complaining like, Bev is so lazy. She fucking hates working. And then the judge says, we have a half day because a juror has an appointment, and we told her that we were going to honor her appointment and leave so she would have plenty of time to get there. And then when she knew she had about hour more of sidebars, she said, I'm going to let you go now. So instead of making you stay till 12:30, I'm going to let you go at 11:30 because we got shit to do that you don't need to be here for. So instead of making you sit here for no fucking purpose, I'm going to release you to your own life. And people have a fucking complaint about that. There was a bitch up in the thing saying, oh my God, I can't believe that she takes breaks. And then mentions some job. Oh, Amazon doesn't let people take breaks. They go pee in a bottle. Is that what you're suggesting Judge Canoni do? That she not allow people to go to the bathroom and make them pee in a bottle? Is that what you're actually suggesting? Like, but what I feel, I really did go on for over an hour. What I feel about, like, once I deleted all of those bots or bot wannabes and I saw what was remaining, I felt like, oh wow, I think this is a much, and you know, it might sound crazy to say, wait, you blocked literally everybody who was pro Karen Reed, and then you're like, oh, now look, it looks normal. But what I'm saying is that I wasn't blocking people who were asking legitimate questions or just stating opinions that are like, you know, you think she's innocent for whatever reason, or you don't think she's guilty. I was blocking obvious, like, campaigning, you know, obvious people who are just completely unhinged. And when I deleted those completely unhinged people, what remained was like, oh, it seems like this is a reasonable perspective. And, you know, is that just me crafting the narrative that I want to? Maybe. But I will say, at the very least, that crafted space was a lot more enjoyable to be in. And I'm looking forward to blocking more bitches so that for my own sanity, I can watch the trial, the remaining days of trial, without, like, what I would end up feeling at the end of it was like waterboarded by, like, bombarded by this campaign that's so unhinged, so deranged, so delusional. It felt fake. And so that's my recommendation. If you're somebody who really cares about justice and you're trying to watch this and it's overwhelming to see what appears to be pro Karen Reed support, try blocking the ones that look like obvious bots, the ones that keep repeating the same thing, or just if you see somebody calling her Bev, just delete them because they have no respect. You see FKR, yeah, fuck Karen Reed. That's what I think FKR means. And again, I don't have joy. I have a little bit of joy when I think about Sarah Boone being in prison, because that bitch deserves it. And when these people come out of their deliberation after everything, you know, after the defense finishes their case and the rebuttal and everything is done, and they go back and they deliberate, I have a feeling they're going to come back within a few hours. I think it's going to be a quick deliberation and guilty on all 3 counts. And then they're going to poll the jury and they're going to get unanimous. Yes, that's my vote. That's what I think. And I think for everyone involved that even Karen, the best case scenario for Karen is that she can finally start serving the sentence that she needs to serve, because her action caused the death of this man. Oh, and I was saying, what do I think happened? I think that she was cheating. She was trying to cheat on him with Brian Higgins, and it wasn't quite going the way that she wanted. And I think that what she was hoping that she was going to do, because she had already tried to go to Brian, she'd already gone to Brian's house, and then instead of them fucking and her having some kind of evidence where she could spring it on John and hurt him for payback because she misperceived that he was cheating on her, or she was just trying to cause trouble because she was miserable and narcissistic, and you know, maybe she was so mad that the reality was that she was an unhinged bitch who was jealous of these orphan children and their need for a parent, which John was stepping in and being, and it pissed her off. So she wanted to paint a picture that he was a fucking cheater to justify leaving him, so she could have a sob story about how he cheated on her or whatever, and, you know, make him look like the bad guy. And so when that backfired, she thought, you know, she'd cheat on him with his own friend, and then that backfired. And then it all was culminating, and he's about to walk into the house where this fucking guy who basically rejected her was. And he was probably breaking up with her in the car anyway after that unhinged day. And she didn't want him to go into the house and find out, wait, she's been fucking doing what since January 12th? She's been trying to fuck you, Brian? And you were like, wait, don't you have a boyfriend? I thought you were happy. And she's like, I'm single. I can do what I want. Why would Brian kill John over that? Why would John try to kill Brian over that? Wouldn't they just be like, ooh, you should break up with her. I am. I don't want to be with her either. Yeah, she's a fucking psycho. But no, that's not what happened. What happened is that John never made it into the house. Instead, he had a cracked skull and other injuries that are perfectly aligned with the damage to her vehicle and the evidence that they found on the lawn where she left him. And the evidence that she tried to delete evidence, ring camera footage. How do we know that she deleted ring camera footage? Because he had a working ring camera that would show everybody coming and going. And we know that she pinged back at his house, and we know that she went back to the house. We know that when she came out of the house with Carrie and Jen, that was a video that was removed. And we know that there was the video with her and her brother and her dad. Those events happened, and those events were removed. So someone deleted them. And Alan Jackson tried to allude to, it could have been Proctor. Why would he delete that? And again, trying to claim that her taillight wasn't broken. And so he's deleting the videos showing that it wasn't broken, even though there's videos that show that it was before that. And there wasn't a single piece of taillight fragment found at John's house. And it was found in the snow on the lawn. And why would it take so many days to find it? Because there was almost 2 feet of snow. What is wrong with people? Nothing's wrong with people. You're fucking bots. I'm more convinced than ever that the people, the bots in the chats who are so pro Karen Read, they are not a representation of a reasonable mind and a reasonable juror. They are representative of people or bots who have an agenda to try to push a narrative instead of looking at the facts. This woman did something terrible, and it resulted in a very horrible tragedy and a loss of a life, and many people suffering for a long time because of the loss, and in such a horrific way, and then being blamed for that thing that they had to endure. That is such a terrible thing to do, and it makes me feel so awful inside. And I do believe she's going to be found guilty and go to prison. And then who's up next? I don't know. I don't even have interest in any case right now. I'm not interested in Brian Koberger. It's just way too gruesome. I don't care about Donna Adelson's case because she's an old guilty bitch and she's going to end up being found guilty. Maybe once it starts I'll watch it, but that's like months from now. Corey Richins, Shanna Gardner, maybe I'll have to start doing something else. I don't know. But we'll see. Okay, it's almost 8 o'clock. I don't know if I'll even get this out tonight. We'll see about that as well. Mwah! And I'll see you in the next one. Don't forget to hit like, hit share, hit subscribe. You can share it even if you don't share it. You can just hit the share button and copy the link, and then that'll give me the share. But share it to somebody that finds this interesting. And those are my thoughts about the trial up till now. And yes, this is my speculation. I'm obviously biased. I obviously believe that Karen Read is guilty. And as I was saying, deleting a lot of what I believe are bots or Karen sycophant cult members, that is obviously going to skew the chat in what makes be an unrealistic way. But it sure as hell made me feel relief. Whew. And if you're interested in ASMR, I have a video that I just recorded just for fun. I have this like little piece of tin foil on my, or aluminum foil on my table, which is now kind of destroyed. But I would like play with it and stuff sometimes just for like a distraction. So I made a little ASMR video if you want to join. It's currently only for Patreon members. So if you want to see it, you can join a Patreon. And any tier, you can see it, and you can see some other videos, and you can see some of the videos that I've done, screen recordings of trial that I've saved for members only, cutting out breaks and stuff like that. So, and like kind of capturing what I thought was the most important parts of the days. I didn't go over day 22. It was more of Dr. Welcher on cross exam, and I don't know, I didn't really feel like there was any huge zingers or any particular thing that would, you know, make it make sense for me to take the time and the energy to go back and screen record hours, or to even do another video about it, because ultimately it's you know, the same outcome. Is that I feel that what Dr. Welcher proved was that she did hit him, and that his phone stopped moving after the impact, just like he stopped moving after the impact, and that she could have gotten back to John's within the time that she did, the 4 minutes, and that even if the defense's witness Desorga, even with his 6-second variation, it's still, they had a 12-second variation. So even in that, even if you give him that 6 seconds, it still falls within the 12 seconds of she did it and got back in time to ping on his Wi-Fi at 12:36 a.m. And none of anything that the defense has said in cross or that they brought up in their witness today has disproven that or discredited that or made it so that that wasn't so. And I think that that is the truth, Ruth. And we will continue to see. I will continue to watch it. Monday, it starts back, and the defense will continue with their case and their witnesses. And I'll see you in the next one.